So today I want to talk about the difference between impulse and inspiration. So one thing that I really like working on when I work with writers, especially if they're coming to me with a new story, a new pitch, a new will you help me write this pilot or this screenplay or this novel, a lot of the time we'll talk about what's your initial impulse. And initial impulse is very different than inspiration. An impulse has structure in its DNA. An impulse has its own weird, sick, sad story that wants to come out, or its own joke that wants to come out, and it really, an impulse usually has a 3-act structure hidden in it. It's just up to us to uncover and unravel what that impulse is. And so I always believe in trusting impulses and being religious about what your initial impulse is. And if you have a glimmer of what that impulse is, finding some way to write it down, it will eventually be in your log line and in your movie's poster, and it will be the marketing. It will guide you through the whole process from start to finish. But just really understanding, even if you can't put words to what the impulse is, in fact, if you can't put words to what the impulse is in the beginning, that's probably better. There's no need to actually put it down in a sentence. Through the writing of the thing, you'll be able to put it in a sentence at the end of the thing. But to just start with that impulse. And usually for me, that impulse is an image. And I like to just work on unraveling some mysterious image, and I follow that impulse to the end. And then usually when I get to about the crisis climax of my story, I'm like, oh, that was what that impulse was. And usually, for most writers, the crisis climax is the scariest, weirdest 2 days of their life. Like when you finally get there, and maybe like draft 3 where you're like, I really have to face what this thing is. Like I really have not gone there. We all know what it is, and there's like a lot of weird behavior that surrounds relaxing into releasing what that crisis climax is, but that's the moment when I do believe you release the impulse fully. And until you've released it fully, you will not rest. That is my own personal opinion about writing. That you have an initial impulse, within that impulse is the structure of the story, and your daily process is about unloading that image, and that you will be most afraid during the crisis climax part of that storytelling process. I always think about our dear friends Thelma and Louise on the cliff, and what that writer, Kelly Curry, must have gone through writing that, because it's just such a potent, beautiful crisis climax moment. Do we go off the cliff, don't we? And it's just so slowly written, and it's just so beautifully executed. So that is impulse. I believe in our impulses, there's structure. Inspiration is fickle. Inspiration will derail you. It's great to be inspired. I always like writing when I'm inspired much more than when I'm uninspired. Things go easier. It's like being in the first 3 weeks of being in love. It's just nice. There's a nice click to the whole thing. However, it's not reliable. It does come and it does go, and it doesn't have structure in it. So it's not like you can listen to a song and be like, oh, I want to write a story because this song is making me feel so great. That will not necessarily be there to hold you up when you're struggling over a crisis climax. You really need an impulse to be able to do that. The inspiration can support and surround the impulse, and we love inspiration and we invite it, but we work with or without it. Impulses are sturdy. Impulses are actually our friends, and usually one can last for the duration of a novel, a screenplay, a play. There's something that is very enjoyable about unwinding an impulse, whereas inspiration, you can get to the bottom of it quite quickly, like in a journal entry or like a bad poem. You know what I mean? That's how you know it was inspiration, it wasn't an impulse. The two are connected, but they're quite different. So what I'm always looking for when I meet writers is what was their impulse. And if you feel lost, let's say you happen to be working on something today that you feel very stuck with, you could ask yourself to go back to the impulse. Just remind yourself what that impulse was. Even if it's something as simple as like an open drawer or a crime scene that you witnessed, or I don't know what that impulse is necessarily, but to return to it and spend more time with that impulse and see if that helps unlock something in your writing today. Thank you so much for watching.